Well, good evening, WNBA and women's basketball fans, and welcome in to another edition of the WNBA 365 Network, your 24/7, 365 comprehensive home for everything revolving around the WNBA and the rest of the women's basketball universe. Joining you folks here, as you guys know, again, this is the final night of our programming for the remainder of the 2015 years. Again, we do have the holidays coming up across the next couple of days and weeks. With that, though, folks, we welcome you inside of a dim and dark Studio 171 here in San Diego. Of course, Callan McClurg joining you folks here this evening on, again, the debut show of our personal form and the storytelling show, basically, here on the network. This is WNBA One-on-One, to talk about, again, a lot of really good personal stories that not just myself, but the broadcast team, as you'll see, again, coming up in about an hour or so. We'll be hearing from Crystal Thomas. She'll join me in the hangout coming up at 10 o'clock. So, to talk about, again, her really good personal story as well. But again, folks, this idea, again, came to me a few weeks ago, again, while watching one of our old shows on the former network of LAS 365. And again, I got this idea more so as a way for us to kind of explain ourselves a little bit, but also kind of have a more of a personal form, because I know that as you guys always see us with 2 to 5 people on our shows every night, now this would be a way for us to kind of get to let the viewers and the fans of the WNBA and the women's basketball universe and kind of get to know us a bit better. And again, that's pretty much all it is. We will take interaction, folks, on Twitter while we are during this program. So again, you guys can hit us up on Twitter at WNBA365, at CallanMac3, but please include the hashtag of W1on1, and we will go from there, folks. And obviously, like I said, though, folks, in the past, again, you guys, again, probably know this story. You've heard about it, read about it, seen it countless times across the wire. Again, the story, again, of the personal connection, which has been dubbed the righteous and the wicked. Again, the personal connection story that I have with current New York Liberty guard and fellow San Diegan Candace Wiggins. But folks, before I can even get into that, a lot of people really want to know, as I've mentioned plenty of times, though, on here, we've talked about this in the past again, and more so a couple days ago when we had our final WNBA offseason central show again, the reasons as to why you would see a male sports fan or male broadcaster like myself, again, covering a league that, again, no one really cares about. And again, I think I've said this quite a few times, but again, it's just something that I've called out of love of the game. Again, as we'll get to all this about why I do this and stuff, but more so, folks, I think we all can agree here, though, that people enter our lives for a reason. There's something about why they come into our lives every day. Whether we meet them on purpose, whether it's kind of by accident, or you're just in the right place at what time, that, hey, you're strangers at first, but once you do come out, and you kind of interact with each other from day to day, week to week, and then, it turns out to be a really good friendship. And we've all been there. We've built these things with either people in our fields to kind of for better networking for a job, or we've done it, though, just to find someone to interact with. And it's something that we all kind of cherish, I guess. And that's all I can really say about, why meeting people nowadays, or just meeting people in general, is always nice to do, because again, it gives you a chance to kind of pick their brain about what they like and whatever it is. And it could turn out to be a good friendship, or in some cases, a pretty good marriage and a really good, happy life of being newlyweds together. But again, as I said, though, folks, countless times on here, but again, a lot of people, again, sometimes forget or want to know, again, why would someone that, again, like myself, who's a really big sports fan, really want to get involved with the sport of women's basketball? And again, it's, as I've said plenty of times on other channels, on other interviews I've done in the press, in the paper, on YouTube, or on any other outlet, is, not only is it love of the game, but again, it's just something that he kind of felt you kind of fall into again. And like I've told and tell him all the time, again, anything and everything sports related to me is fair. You can talk baseball, basketball, football, hockey, soccer, MMA, NASCAR racing. You can pretty much talk anything around me, and I've got some type of response, some type of something to give you, basically, whether I know the sport really well or don't know the sport a lot. But to answer the age-old question again, why how or why did you get your start in women's basketball? Or pretty much the how is, I can kind of time travel back to 2004. That's kind of where that's kind of the year that I kind of owe a lot of things to, is 2004. And the reason why I say that again is I was back east seeing my uncle and aunt who've lived in Hartford, Connecticut for a long time. And there happened to be one day where we were touring the campus of the University of Connecticut. There you kind of go. So you're kind of getting a bit of foreshadowing. It was a really rainy day, really stormy. I remember it very well because, again, this was an 11-year-old kid, again, wandering this college campus, and even thought about going there at one point in time. But then that night, when we had gone back to the house, my uncle had gotten tickets to that women's basketball game that night. And I said, he asked if I wanted to go. And I said, man, why not? It's a sporting event. I love sports. I love basketball. So why not go and do it? So then once the game kind of got rolling, you just kind of saw UConn, as they always do. There's always, you always see them pummeling opponents or beating them big time. And not only that, though, it's just also the names that you see, though, when you walk into Gamble Pavilion, or during 2004, you had, you could see Rebecca Lobo and Jennifer Ozzie and all these other players that have come through the program and had so much success at this women's basketball mecca going forward at that point. But the notable name, though, folks, of course, is Diana Taurasi. That was the player that really kind of got me like this for the sport of women's basketball, because that was a team in 04 that Diana had led all the way to the final, as always. And that was kind of where it started. I ended up actually buying one of Dee's T-shirts in the student bookstore after the game ended and brought that home as a souvenir, of course, back home. So following that game then became the local games, then became USD, then SDSU, then Point Loma Nazarene, UCSD, all these other colleges I'd gone to. And then at USD, as you kind of go on a little bit more to roughly a few years later, two friends of mine that I've been family friends with for pretty much for my entire life, Amanda Rigo and Amber Sprague, I was at their final game when they were seniors at USD. They beat Gonzaga to win the West Coast Conference tournament, and that was really cool to be there for two friends that you had seen grow up from high school kids. You saw them play in high school, then you go and see them play in college, and they go and win conference championships and all, and this and that, and they have great careers post that. And then when I'd gone to see SDSU play, I'd seen some of their non-conference games, and they had former WNBA player Janae Morris as one of their star players. So 2004 was kind of when the ball got rolling, basically, is what I'll say for that. Just say that real quick. One tweet real quick from Crystal Thomas, again, who you guys will see coming up at the top of the hour or sometime in the ballpark. She likes the wardrobe. She said, rocking the Libs shirt, ... I see you. And Shorty Mama 24 commented in the live viewing page saying she's watching. So thank you two, at least, for dropping by and hanging out on the opening show of WNBA 101. So again, folks, so once you kind of go back from Amanda and Amber and Janae, when I saw those players play, then came the winter of 2004. So this was roughly, I'd say, early season, maybe even the first couple weeks. But roughly around the winter, I'd say probably about maybe early December, maybe even mid-December. When I was playing travel baseball, and again, this is basically about 11 years ago, I had a doubleheader in the morning at La Jolla Country Day High School, which is roughly located, I'd say, about 20 minutes west from where I live towards the ocean. It's near Torrey Pines, where they have the Farmers Insurance Golf Tournament held every January in San Diego. And it's a really nice school to go to, private, and it's really has been one of San Diego's biggest girls basketball schools, behind a lot of other great programs. So once my two games ended, my teammates and I and our parents and everyone else that had come, we had a pretty big barbecue because it was our last game, probably around this time. So it was probably our last game before the Christmas holiday came. So we were playing, two-hand touch football. We were playing butts up, you name it, of what other games or whatever, post game games you're playing as an 11-year-old kid with all your teammates and your friends and whatnot. So while I was taking a break from playing all these games, I start to see this big multitude and like clan and cluster of people walking towards the gym, which was roughly maybe, I don't know, a few hundred yards away from where we were playing our game at. To my knowledge, what I'd heard from a few people that were there, La Jolla Country Day was hosting a girls basketball tournament, and they were playing Orange Glen High School roughly right before we wrapped things up. So I ended up taking a few of my friends saying, hey, let's just go check out the game for a bit. I mean, I'd rather do that than, continue getting hot and sweaty and, injury prone or whatnot. So we ended up weaseling our way into the game. And it was an atmosphere that I'd never seen for a high school basketball game, but let alone the folks for a girls game either. I mean, as we know very well as WNBA fans, media members, whatnot, again, of the struggle that you go through as a women's basketball fan, women's basketball supporter, whatnot, it's tough to kind of pack those gyms basically. And I mean, just the vibe and the atmosphere, the energy that was in the gym at Country Day made you feel like it was a playoff game, or even a championship game for that matter. I mean, that's all I can really say for it. So then I kind of, was, why are they acting, why is this crowd going so, why are they going, kind of all hullabaloo? But once the game got rolling, then you kind of, the light bulb, I kept the lights off in here tonight, but the light bulb in your mind kind of goes like this, like, okay, now I see why they're going kind of haywire here. It was because of the play of their senior captain, their leader, and their three-sport student athlete, Candace Wiggins. And seeing her play for a bit, really exemplified, why senior leadership is so valuable, not only for team chemistry in high school or college, but why they are so important, why they're the rock and foundation and the fabric of a team, is they can hold the pieces together when things get tough in a rough situation off the floor. They're there to kind of help you out and mentor you if you're freshman, sophomore, junior. Even if you're a senior, they're still like your mentors, your teachers, basically, to kind of keep you from a right and wrong. I mean, and this was only their second game of the season too, and just seeing her play, her grit, determination, and then above all too, the calm, cool, outgoing demeanor you get is kind of what it's like. Okay, I think you're going somewhere, and and yes, I know that it's kind of rare that you see anyone below the age of, I'd say probably the age of 15, probably someone who's not in high school or college, below that age that would be already going out and making professional connections for the future. Well, if you guys know me very well, I'm kind of that way. So I think what was really cool here about this was I had happened to go up to Candace after her game. Keep in mind, folks, I'm 11. I'm like in between 4th and 5th grade, and she's already a senior, already having offers from Stanford and other colleges that she had applied to, all the 9 that she told me later on. And it was about maybe a 5-minute conversation at tops. And this was an 11-year-old kid telling someone who was way older than them about how much that they loved, appreciated, and really became a big fan of how that person played their game. And to see that person, maybe get taken back a bit by someone way, far below their level on the depth chart in regards to age and whatnot, for them to, shake hands, give them a hug and say, hey, thank you for the support and thank you for the kind words. That's kind of where things that's also where the boulder kind of got pushed off the cliff and started heading down. And then that, sadly, folks, was the last time I'd be able to see her play in person. But mercifully, thanks to the wonders of the newspaper in San Diego, I was able to track the scores for Country Day and see them win all the state championships and stuff. And then once it went to Stanford, you still falter because, hey, it's someone that you watched. They're from the same area code as you. And so, yeah, and then, everything else included. So, of course, it just continued for me to follow her path. So that was through Stanford and, all the heartbreak that they had of losing the national title games or their early exits, and then seeing her go number 3 in the draft to Minnesota. And I should even point this out too, this is a really good story as well, was the day after the draft. And this was when I was in, we're fast forwarding here to when I was in 8th grade. So this is 4 years after I had met her. I had gone to my English class for 4th period, and the assignment as like I think we all know about the warm-up assignments that we were given in college or in high school or in middle school, was to write something about what happened in your day the previous day. So I, being the big sports fan and big women's basketball fan I was and still am, but this is me in the early stages of me being a fan, took the time to write about a 6-page essay about seeing both Candace Parker and Wiggs get drafted in the first round, and how it was pretty big news because, it was, the best player all around and ace going number 1, and then also a player that was also just as good as her, but also had that San Diego connection though to the city, that also ended up going overall in the draft. And it was pretty big news in San Diego, folks. It was a pretty good article in the newspaper about her going 3rd overall in the draft in the Union Tribune that next day as well, as an audible mention in there as well, which was really great to see. And then, the euphoria, you can kind of say. Obviously, I had, started watching and was watching the Sparks for a long time, still am and still do. But then would always check up on Candace Wiggins and see what she was doing. So, of course, obviously, whenever she played against LA, I was rooting for the Sparks win, but hoped that she had a good game and played well and stayed injury-free. And then when 2011 hit and you see them win the championship, I mean, as much as it may have hurt for me not to see the Sparks win the championship, it felt – it still felt like it was still a reason to celebrate, even though that your team didn't win it, to see one of your friends and see someone that you grew up watching, to see them achieve their dreams and their goals for their career and seeing them win the championship was awesome. I really can't fathom as to how much it is or how great it is though to see someone, again, as I've said, that you've admired, you've loved and respected from the time they were in high school, to see them go pro and see them win their first championship was great. Then when she had gone to Tulsa was a bit different because that was, as she ended up saying, was her first real chance to be a leader in the league. And then her homecoming in LA, I didn't make the most of it, sadly, because she was injured during the time I'd gone to see a few games up there in 2014, the home opener, and the second game against New York that I had gone to where I had met Ace. But I did, though, talk to Candace Wiggins before the game briefly against New York. Then when, of course, she came to LA as a visitor this past year. We'll get to that a bit later on. But so even though I wasn't able to see her play in person again until, I'll just keep that in the box right now. But as you guys may know very well, but again, just last year, while I was still a student in broadcasting school, still pursuing my degree, again, I had a few projects to do. And as you know, the first project again was the interview with Candace Parker. But originally, guys and folks, Candace Wiggins was my backup in case Parker's interview fell through, because you guys may have heard my story probably or read it on my website, anywhere maybe if you found it. Again, there was about a 3-week delay between me getting Parker's confirmation and then actually going through with the interview, because she had knee surgery and she was planning on going to play with Team USA in the FIBA World Championship, but of course with her knee surgery. So there's a lot going on. So I needed someone to kind of be plan B. If plan B doesn't work, what's plan B going to be? And that was a extension of an invite via LinkedIn and email, not over Twitter as it was with Candace Parker. Like that, she said, absolutely, let's do this. So it ended up being both Parker and then Candace Wiggins the following week. And it was, and much like you probably heard us talk about last show here with Crystal, Tanisha, and myself about kind of reliving the glory days, kind of sort of on the network, was the level of skepticism of being skeptic, I guess, about what a pro athlete consider taking the time to interview or do an interview with a either a student or someone that's not with a major media outlet, it was up here. Trust me, that was more so with Parker, more so than Wiggins, because her and I are so much alike. It's kind of sad because we can talk your ear off for an hour, 2 hours, or even a whole day if possible. But just to see the courtesy, the gratitude, the respect, the welcoming, the lovey-dovey welcoming with open arms to say, hey, here's my number. Let's do this on this at this date, this time, and let's go and do this to get this out of the way. That's something that I think some athletes don't really reconsider, is the level that is the level of courtesy, kindness, respect, professionalism, and class that they have to kind of show to the fans of their franchise and the fans across the rest of the league, and even to the media. They sometimes forget that. Sometimes I think we all forget that, though, every now and then, about pretty much minding our P's and Q's. So that was a really good thing for me to do, of course, was that hour-long interview. But of course, as you guys know, the overall highlight, though, was not the fact that it was an interview with someone I grew up watching and grew up knowing, but again, the fact, though, that a pro athlete ranks a interview with a student or someone not with a major media market or media outlet as the best interview of their whole career. And again, I remember being frozen dead in my tracks when she had said that, because there's at least like a 30-second pause in between, like, of me registering it, thinking about it, choking up a bit, teary eyes a little bit, and then asking, Candace, you've played in this league for 8 years. You've done victory parade interviews in Minnesota. You've done interviews with ESPN and Fox, and with ESPN, with Jeremy Schaap, all these other A-list, people that are on different elevator floors than I am. So how could this interview be better than anyone that you've done in your entire career? And just to know, though, again, that it was, that one-on-one, kind of like I'm gonna show you again, that one-on-one kind of, go to Starbucks, grab coffee, or in my case, you grab a venti hot chocolate. Then you go sit outside and you could just go and talk about life, basically. That's all it was. And that was when things kind of rattled my cage, was, hey, you really have earned the respect of a professional athlete, but also one that you grew up watching, you've known for so long, this and that, yada, yada, yada. By far best response I've ever received. And I've been getting those a lot lately with the jobs I've been doing. But still, though, there is nothing that can, overtake that response from a athlete, of saying that an interview that you did with them as a student is the best one of their entire career. So then, moving into the present day now, obviously, when Candace announced she was going to go to New York, I was happy for her. Obviously, for one deal, because of course she got a chance to continue playing and continue doing what she loves. But of course, it was a bit sad, though, because you won't see her 17 times at Staples Center. You'll see her one time and one time only. And that was the only goal or objective I had all season, was just to make it to her game and to kind of see where it would take me. And I think, though, that we all agree here is, in any sport, any level, whether you know them well like I do or not, it's always tough, though, seeing a player that you admired and respected go and play for a different franchise, whether it's a rival franchise or just a different franchise. It's always tough. But, we end up taking all of the, all the P's and Q's, and we end up taking it with a grain of salt, moving on. So, of course, I made it to her game. And I think, though, folks, it needs to be brought up, though, as well, and this has never been talked about here ever on the network, I don't think, at least. But the day of the game, even after I'd gone to Sports Nation right across the street from my hotel in downtown LA, was the fact that there was communication. There was some texting going on. There was some Snapchatting going on between us two. Kind of like old times, it was kind of like going back to the interview, and kind of, basically all I was doing at that time while having her number was, just saying, hey, just want to remind you we're doing it at this time. Then, of course, afterwards, we had talked a little bit afterwards from the interview. We had just texted, and I just said, hey, thank you again so much for doing this. It means a lot, of course, for me going forward. And of course, there was a lot of stuff there, but, there was some form of communication between us two pre-game, before the game, well before she had gone to Staples Center, well beforehand, there was some kind of direct line of communication. So as we revisited this story, or this part of the story again, where I had gone and moved Crystal's big thing of popcorn and sat down next to her, of course. I'd moved more so just to, say I'm here, kind of, wave and be a searchlight, kind of, sort of, and just say, hey, I'm here. Go take care of your stuff, and I'll see you in a few minutes. So once the game finally ended and I moved down to that first row behind the bench, like we had said, though, a couple days ago, again, who do you guys think was the first person she gave a hug to and embraced after the game? Yeah, that was the really tall guy over here, the gazelle, the stallion over here. I mean, that's just how it was, and, just saying her name once, I didn't have to be one of those fans that had to, constantly bark her name out, just say it once, wave maybe one time, and, hey, we embrace, we hug each other, we say, it's been too long, it's been way too long. Sorry it took me so long, me apologizing for not seeing your play after that one day at Country Day. And then she said that she'd be back and everything else included going forward. Because, of course, there was post-game interviews. There was, of course, luggage to get because they were coming on a road trip from Phoenix. So I had taken the first seat in the section closest to the tunnel, which was, right to my left, not that far away. So I was minding my own business, and then this small cluster of people ended up taking seats right next to me. So I kind of blew them off like, okay, maybe it's someone with LA, maybe it's someone with New York, maybe it's something else, but I didn't really know what to make of it until the person sitting next to me had a mini credential that was issued by Staples Center for the game, but it had written guest New York on it. So I'm thinking to myself, someone's family for New York. Who it is, I don't know, because I think if it was Candace's family, which it was, but I think if we would have known each other, I mean, maybe if they would have recognized me, or maybe if Nathan and Meredith would have been there, they were in Boston at that game, maybe things would have went like this, but instead it was just me kind of, looking over and seeing, okay, what's going on here? But it ended up being Candace's family, but I didn't know about it because, I just didn't know who it was because all it said was guest New York. It didn't have anyone's name written on it. So the wait turned into be a bit longer than expected. So we ended up waiting outside at 11th Street, which is right next to the LA Convention Center, when you started to see players from the Liberty kind of trickle out of the arena. So I went over and talked to Swin Cash and Brittany Boyd and Tina Charles and Carolyn Swords for a bit, and they were staying at the Lux City Center Hotel, the same hotel where I was staying at for that one blunder of a show we had back in November, roughly 2 blocks away from Staples Center. So it was me and my colleague, Chris Davis from Point Loma. We were just standing there talking outside of the arena before Crystal had left with her friend, sadly. And then something told me to go to the crosswalk right next to where we were standing because I saw that same small cluster of people standing at that crosswalk intersection. So I kind of minded my own business and just walked over casually until this kind of, again, in my case, with me being 6'4", someone, until I saw this face kind of, turn quickly at me, and there I was engulfed with Candace and her family. And there it was. I mean, out of all the places, folks, it was at a crosswalk intersection. Of all the places to have seen someone that you have not seen in 11 years, it was there. So, of course, we hugged again, and I'd been able to meet her sister and some of her cousins that had come to the game from Pasadena and from San Diego. Just that was something that I still kind of get flashbacks to every now and then, and that's just kind of how it's been. So her and I, of course, broke away for about 15 minutes. And just, I had to kind of get a lot of things off my chest in that brief time was, the interview, of course, and we were, just kind of, excuse me, we're just kind of, just returning favors and stuff. And obviously, as you guys know, as well with her personal story, as well with, again, her losing her dad because of a really tough battle with AIDS from cocaine usage. Again, that was something I brought up that in due time before we had our interview in October that Candace really didn't talk a lot about her dad. Even in high school and in college, she really didn't either know a lot or didn't really just want to talk a lot about it, because back then, as a lot of the articles have said over the postseason, was, if someone you knew had AIDS in your family was basically shamed upon. You were scapegoats, kind of like, basically you were made fun of for someone having AIDS. And now that she's really more engulfed with the AIDS awareness stuff every December 1st, so on and so forth, is the fact that, you bring awareness to something, whether it's been me doing it for my friend Mia McPullen in Phoenix with her rare bone marrow disorder and her blood transfusions and stuff, and me giving blood every now and then for that cause, is you bring awareness to something and people can really do something to really change that asset of life. And more so, I mean, even after we had talked about the interview, Candace, of course, thanked me, because you guys know very well, we, as she said, though, we are BFFs forever on, BFFs on Twitter, on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Vine, if I had Vine, and also via text, because, hey, she's got a friend that, of course, lives in San Diego that knows about the league. And of course, he's a guy that knows the league as well. But also she really liked, though, and as Crystal and Sheree brought up, though, a lot, though, about myself, and also my main man, Eric Nemchok, on the network here, is, again, of, seeing how knowledgeable male sports fans can be about the WNBA and women's basketball, because as she even told me as well, the struggle that we go through as players to get this league and the sport attention. And kind of going back again to the other side of that story again, about her and her awareness about AIDS and about her dad and educating people about AIDS, was, she's even told me that night as well, that, the story that I did with her, or the interview I did with her, I should say, really has helped people understand her story and get to know her better than what they probably knew about her, and even her father, of course, the late great Alan Wiggins. And of course, as well, she praised me, of course, for knowing about her background and, from playing at Country Day in college and her WNBA career. And of course, she brings it up, though, as well. We always do, but of course, it's only because we're from here. I live maybe 10 minutes away from USD, where her cousin Nathan goes to college, and also near Francis Parker High School, where her other cousin Meredith plays basketball for the Lady Lancers, and roughly where I'm about 20 minutes away from where her rest of her family stays in San Diego and Poway. So, there's a lot here between us, knowing everything else included. And then, so after we had our one-on-one get together, her family said, "Hey, we're going to go back to the hotel." And I was personally invited by Candace to walk her back to the hotel. So, I mean, we kind of did, the arm on the shoulder thing, basically, or the arm around the whole way, kind of, sort of, a little bit. But then it was like, we were, 100 yards downfield already, going to the end zone for a touchdown, and everyone else was like back at the 20, basically, because, we wanted, but we also thankfully, mercifully, got our little one-on-one to get together afterwards. So while walking back, we had talked about basketball, our families, our home life, so on and so forth. And then the lobby, of course, was the best part about it at the Lux. Whenever I walked into Lux, when I was up there in November, of course, it brought back many flashbacks. It did. It really brought back flashbacks of, what was a really, really awesome, by far a highlight of the entire, just, a huge highlight, of course, was, us walking back, elbow on the shoulder or arm around the shoulders, at least. And then the lobby folks, like I said, just the flashbacks, seeing the painting of Elvis Presley amongst the first wall. And then, the staircase that goes up to the bar and grill on the second level of the Lux, where we had gotten our photos taken by the hotel bellhoppers. And then, of course, we had time to get some autographs signed. And then once we kind of broke away, which when I kind of laid out the plan for her family and my family to kind of get together for dinner in a couple weeks when she does come back to San Diego for the Christmas holiday. So after that, once we had our one night amongst, the stars in LA, We had kind of gone in different directions between, her and her family were going into Hollywood to party things up at some clubs. They'd gone through North Hollywood. I was on my way back home to Candace, San Diego to finish up announcing my summer baseball schedule. That I had one more game left before they'd gone to their other tournament. And that is a night, folks, that I think cannot be duplicated. I think that as you kind of think about it, you don't really get those kind of one-on-one meet and greets with athletes. You rarely don't unless you either have season tickets or you go to some really big event that offers. It's like kind of going to those like personal luncheons with like someone running for president where you have to fork out like over $1,000 or more to just go to the thing and eat food and talk to someone that could be running for office. Where this experience for me was, game night was free of charge except for the $10 pizza I bought from CPK, and then everything else after was it didn't break my piggy banks. It was everything that I'd already brought up to have signed, and that's something that you really can't put a value on. I mean, that type of experience, really can't be trumped or taken, or really nothing can really surpass it as of now. It can't, because, of course, this was, long lost friends, basically, from 04 to 08 until now, where we had not seen each other in 11 years. And obviously I've grown up to be what I am now, a bachelor with a degree in broadcasting. Of course, she's still playing pro sports. But, it's a night and an experience that, can never be duplicated ever again. I'm sure it can be probably when I make my solo trip to New York to see her play at MSG perhaps, but in due time, nothing can really pass it. And I think though that, excuse me, that the other thing that you kind of wrap your head around, folks, is, something that I value though as well, is just knowing though that not any type, not a day really goes by that there's not a day though that we don't talk to each other. Obviously it's kind of tough though to stay in touch when they're in season, of course, or even in the off season. It can be tough sometimes when they either travel overseas to play or they go and see family overseas, like Candace this year, to go see her brother play in Latvia, or even if they're up in, or even if they're close to home, or even if they are home, it's still tough, to still talk to your friends like that. And, between Facebook, between Twitter, between Instagram posts, between Snapchats, or sometimes the text or the call, sometimes we're always in touch. We're always sharing something, whether it's me sharing with her, hey, look, this is what's going on, and there's always laughs. There's always good times. There's always something. There's always a positive talking point between Candace Wiggins and myself in some capacity. And it's that way though too whenever I hang out with Nathan and Meredith. It's the same way when we get together. There's always, it's kind of like it's a little bit like Star Wars when you see the ending of Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, folks, where you see Luke Skywalker look and see the holograms of Ben Kenobi and Yoda and then Anakin Skywalker. It's kind of that way though when me and Nate and Meredith are all together, because you can kind of feel like Candace is there in some capacity, because it's like you don't skip a beat. Even when I'm with them, it's the same way. We share stories, we laugh, there's good times. And, it's been, we've really formed and gelled that really special friendship that I brought though again is, people enter our lives for some reason. There's some reason as to why I had talked to Candace Wiggins when she was a senior in high school, 11 years ago, 12 years ago, whatever it may be. And there's been so many things that we've done, that I've done at least with Nathan and Meredith, between Nathan and me going to volleyball games at USD. We've gone to football games. We've hooked up for lunch. Nathan, of course, brought 7 of his friends out to the first goals game I announced for public address back in November. And it's to the point now where that whole family, folks, is like, the adopted family I never had. We've all become, brothers and sisters that we've never had. And it's been that way ever since, it's been that way for 11 years, and it never really got off the ground again until recently. And to kind of close down shop before we move on to Crystal and her upcoming show coming up momentarily, is I'll just wrap up by saying, folks, hey, it never will matter what jersey she does wear for the rest of her career, because this friendship, this bond, this soul bond, it involves more than just the game of basketball. I know that there was a time where, one of my favorite songs personally is Hey Soul Sister by Train. And that could kind of, I guess, be the song about the friendship I do have with the Wiggins family and her personally, because, you don't really want to miss a single thing that athletes do in their careers, whether it's championships, whether it's, charitable work. You don't want to really miss those moments. And that's why social media has been a really big thing, but also it's because we're so much alike that it's tough to fathom. I mean, we have homegrown roots. We're both writers. We love sharing blog stories, whether it's me writing about these experiences, or Candace writing about, her dad, or writing about getting injured at MSG, then now playing there full time this past season. And also more importantly though, that we both have clear views for what we want to do for our futures. Candace has told me she wants to continue doing all of her writing, which she has time over the off season, and of course be with her folks and her mom and her sister up in LA, and of course her family down here, myself kind of included, I guess. But also, she's also still though having a valiant effort though about raising awareness about AIDS, female and girls empowerment, and of course growing the sport of women's basketball as well. And as I said though, folks, and I think though that her and I will both agree that it's not every day though that I think that we can say, or that I can say, or that you can even say out there, that a professional athlete is one of your best friends, and also who I should mention is one of the people that is on speed dial or speed text in my phone. So, I mean, I can really say that as well going forward. We had a couple of tweets during the course of the story time here. One tweet from CN Ransom, one of our good friends in Indianapolis, from @PT_Coach Ransom, who said, "Always good to hear a story from Callan. Glad to hear that, CN. Thanks for tuning in." And Crystal, of course, with her trademark tweet of Soki, Soki. And again, folks, you go from Crystal. Coming up shortly here on the second episode of WNBA One-on-One, you'll be able to see me briefly, or hear me a bit. But again, Crystal has a really good, folks, really, really empowering, really moving story to tell you folks coming up probably sometime soon, because I'm running out of ideas here. But again, folks, there's really not much else for me to say here. But again, I'm sure though that it's kind of gotten a wee bit redundant that I've kind of said this, or I've really shared this story a lot though. But not only do I enjoy sharing the story, folks, but again, it's kind of, as I said, a reason as to why I love this game. I mean, a lot of people, when I first started this network back in February of last year, they, the crazy sports fans came out and said, "Oh my goodness, man, what are you doing? This is not what we want to watch, because I don't care about this league. This league is trash." All the stuff that you hear, folks, about the WNBA, this is sort of the reason as to why, I love this game so much, and why I've covered this game for the past 11 and 12 years is, not only meeting people in this, meeting people like Ace, like Ice, like Jessa Scorza, like Amanda Rigo and Amber Sprague, who've been longtime friends of mine since they were in high school, as well with just like Candace. But again, this is just the reason as to why this game is such a big part of my life. And I remember telling this, folks, to one of my bosses at PLNU, because I had to leave early one time to go do a football game, and they really weren't the biggest fans of the biggest fans, and they were kind of questioning a little bit. But I agree though, and I respect it. If I was really committed to being there for that for the rest of the season, and I told them, I said, men's basketball, while I watch it, I just don't like covering it, because I'm not that type of person. You guys know, again, I mean, I may tweet or post a bit about the teams that I root for on the upper tier, but again, I'm not going to come onto YouTube and re-talk about the stuff that I've talked about or what people have already talked about nonstop, and that's just not what I'm going to do. That's just not how I operate. You know, I prefer the sports that I cover already, between college, between minor league hockey, and of course women's basketball going forward. But again, you know, this is a reason as to why this league is so special to me, and why this friendship is always a talking point for me. Because, you know, I mean, I really want to know, though. I mean, you know, what other professional athlete out there would give someone like me, you know, for one, give them their phone number for an interview, and I still have it in my phone ever since. But also, you know, would they really, though, take the time, though, you know, not only to, of course, you know, interact with them on social media, but also take the time, though, as well, to, you know, not only, you know, but to allow them to, you know, bug them for half an hour after a game ends. Or even as we did, though, I mean, we talked for another hour or two after her game in the lobby of the Lux. And again, that's why this game means so much to me, you know, because you don't have athletes with egos, or athletes that, you know, think it's all about the game and not about the fans. You know, that's just what I think what it's all about, is that these athletes that get ridiculed, they get criticized, they get thrown under the bus for it being a female sport. But when they play a fundamentally better game than the NBA does, better than the men on college level, and that they actually do the little things. You know, that's something that Tony Gwynn, who was a teammate of Candace's dad back in '84 on that World Series Padres team, told me when I was playing and working out and practicing with his college kids when I was younger, was do the little things right. And I think that we can all agree that every WNBA player does the little things. They have those intangibles to sign those autographs, to talk to you on social media, to take the photos and selfies with you nonstop, that they are the right role models for up and coming athletes, whether it is a male athlete or a male analyst or a male sports fan, or even a female, you know, player that wants to go and shoot for her dreams in the WNBA, you know, that they do the little things and the little intangibles right. And I mean, and the best one I can recall, folks, from this past summer was Candace and Swin Cash bringing in that AAU team that had the girl on their team that got disqualified from that tournament, that they personally flew them into MSG, into New York, and they played a full game at the Garden after the Liberty played the Tulsa Shock. And to see the Liberty players in their street clothes, in their sandals, in their shooting shirts, and still in their game uniforms, stay on their bench and watch that whole game through. And it went public on CNN, it went public on ESPN, it went public on Fox News. You know, again, these athletes, again, that I believe wholeheartedly, not because I'm a fan of the sport and I have a friend that plays in the league, but again, it's because they do the little things right, you know. And again, I can't vouch for other pro athletes across other sports like male athletes. I know they do it, folks, but again, I just don't see it every day, you know. And I've been around, you know, many Padre games, many baseball games, many Charger and football games, many college games, many other leagues and sporting leagues. And frankly, the two teams or two leagues I've seen athletes that really take the time to do the little things right is the WNBA and the American Hockey League. Because at the games I do, folks, every Friday night or every Saturday night, the fans can come out and skate with the team on the ice. Those players will help the little kids skate. They'll sign autographs. They'll talk to you for about 15 minutes. You know, they're really outgoing. And I think, though, that we wish that every athlete, every level, every sport could be that way. And again, like I said, though, that's doing the little things and doing the little intangibles right. And I think that, again, in spite of what the league, what the players go through on a day-to-day basis every year with the league, is they do it right, and that they shouldn't be criticized for doing the little things right, folks. And also, above all, too, there is no egos either, you know, in this league either as well. One more tweet, folks, in coming up at the top of the hour again. You will hear from Crystal and myself. This will be a little one-on-one, small little interview that you'll be hearing here. But Eric Nemchok on Twitter, he says to Crystal in regards to the show, he says, let's go up at Pup 1010. dab on them. So hopefully we'll break out the dab for our next show coming up in a few minutes. But again, folks, I'm sure that it's been really fun though, folks. I've seen some good responses in our chat box actually between Crystal and Shorty. Sorry guys, I couldn't get to those comments though at that point in time. But again, folks, thanks for sitting in on show 1. But again, folks, always fun though to again share stories about people that that you love and respect and admire. And of course, I've admired and loved Candace Wiggins and her family for 11 years, and of course, don't plan on stopping anytime soon. And again, Candace was sent this link, so if she does watch it, I'm sure that she'll get a pretty good kick out of it and she'll enjoy watching it. She normally does. Well, though, folks, we'll take a quick time out when we do come back. We'll be joined by Crystal Thomas for our next show again. That is WNBA One-on-One Episode 2. Crystal Thomas joins us next. But with that, though, folks, as always, it's always fun here to sit in here on the network. And again, for one night at least, share the story again, and just sharing a pretty good story again, sharing the story again of myself and meeting up and seeing my dear friend, my good friend, my awesome friend, and the soul sister I never had, basically, folks. But again, seeing my girl Candace Wiggins again after 11 years and not seeing her play when she was in high school in San Diego. With that, though, folks, pleasure as always. Taking a break, coming back with more after this. Don't go away. KT's up next on WNBA One-on-One, so please don't go away. And thanks for watching. More to come after this, so don't go away.